the dancers and orchestra of the Royal Court of Solo. The palace, known as the Kraton, was once the center of Indonesia's cultural, political and spiritual life. Since independence in 1945, almost all of that is gone. The dancing now takes place in an empty courtyard with few spectators. While with the loss of influence has come a loss of income. Now a scandal over stolen statues involving suspected murder, theft, cover-ups, royal intrigue and ruined careers has thrown an unwelcome spotlight on the court and the murky world of the international art market. At the heart of the story, these 5 statues. Until recently, this, the Radia Pustaka Museum in the Indonesian town of Solo, is where they were displayed. Their former resting places now marked by empty plinths or clumsy fakes. The museum is thought to be the oldest in Indonesia, but it's not just the 5 statues that have gone missing. Its entire collection has been plundered.
Teman-teman kami ketika menginventarisasi
My colleagues and I carried out a survey and discovered that it's certain more than 60% of the collection is missing. Some objects have even been replaced by fakes.
Oh, mudah sekali kalau kami di arkeologi karena belajar terutama arca ya.
It's easy to distinguish between them. For us who study archaeology, especially statues, it's easy to tell them apart.
The looting of the museum might have gone on indefinitely had it not been for the actions of one university student. Andrea Amboro Watiningsi, better known as Ambar, was a guide showing people around the collection. In 2005, she noticed some items seemed to be missing and suggested a check of the exhibits. The museum director, Hadi Darmodipuro, often referred to by his nickname Bahadi, said some things were in storage and that she shouldn't worry. The appearance of a man said to be a banker, Heru Suryanto, just increased her suspicions. He was, she was told, helping shore up the museum's precarious finances. But his behavior when visiting, sometimes accompanied by an unidentified foreigner, was unusual.
I started getting suspicious when he kept coming to the museum, taking pictures in the parts of the museum where items subsequently went missing. I even asked him why he was taking pictures of the collection. He didn't give any explanation. Then I became really suspicious when I noticed he kept going to the bronze collection.
The museum's collection of bronzes is famous, of far greater significance than its stone statue collection. Ambar's suspicions led her to ask again for a full inventory, including the bronzes. The response from the museum curator was to sack her. Ambar returned to university, the matter apparently closed. Until one day she returned with some friends just to look around. Taking pictures of the statues, she noticed they looked different.
I took a picture because they didn't look the same anymore. The moment I reached home, I tried to match what I had seen with the files and documents that I already had at home.
The statues had changed. They'd been swapped for modern versions of the same subjects. The new statues were made by this stone mason, whose cousin gave him photographs to work from. As even he says, his copies are easy to tell from the originals.
Sebetulnya kalau barang itu berdekatan ya, Actually, if those statues are standing next to each other, we can tell the difference because the original ones are a mix of colors, not just yellow. They are also black, white, little streaks of color. With the new ones, the only color is yellow.
Tapi yang bikinan baru ini kan warnanya cuma kuning tok itu.
Looking for guidance as to what to do about these obvious fakes, Ambar approached archaeology experts at her university. Using her notes and photos, she quickly convinced them she was right. They put her in touch with an expert from the Central Java Archaeological Preservation Board, Lambang Barbara Purnomo. They quickly developed a strong relationship.
Telepon, kirim SMS, saling menanyakan kabar, dan
We were always in contact. We would send text messages to each other and talk about everything, from matters related to archaeology and how to handle the case. We became like father and daughter.
A team led by Lambang checked the museum. They produced a survey showing that more than half the exhibits were missing or fake.
Dari hampir 85 itu hampir
Out of 85 items, more than half were missing, and they were all masterpieces, and they are really important. The whole world refers to them when they are doing research.
The investigation and subsequent police inquiry rapidly found itself in sensitive areas. The museum had been founded by the royal family of Solo. Financially, the palace struggles on the best it can. So the suspicion has arisen that it may have authorized the sale of the statues to improve its dire monetary position. That's flatly rejected by the king's sister, who puts the blame squarely on the museum director who sacked Ambar.
What happened was that there was a staff member from the royal family who didn't think his main duty was to protect the collection, as well as providing information to the visitors about the history of the collection. The employee thought all the collections belonged to him.
It's a line that the police investigation backed up. The museum's director and the fake bank official Heru were arrested. Heru was discovered to be an art dealer. The statues ended up with an eminent Dutch art expert, Hugo Kraejer, who in turn had sold them to one of Indonesia's richest men, Hashim Jojo Hadikusumo. Hashim Jojo Hadikusumo was also very well connected. His brother is married to a daughter of former President Suharto. Kraejer himself used to work for the prestigious Christie's auction house. He insists the sale was entirely legal. He bought the statues from the King of Solo, he says, with valid documents, including letters from the king himself. That's an assertion challenged by the royal family. It says the documents, copies of which have been obtained by Al Jazeera, were forgeries. They show the royal crest and apparently official stamps. But both are easy to forge, and the royal family insists they are fake.
Saya menerangkan bahwa as a secretary to the royal family, I can state that all the documents are false, including the letterhead, stamp, and signature. We haven't seen any of them before.
Kraejer says if this is true, then he himself and his client who paid $100,000 for the statues were duped.
Well, I didn't forge anything at all. I mean, we got those documents with the sculptures, and they look really very good. And even if they have been faked, then the only thing I can say, we have been cheated.
Kraejer points out that he'd be foolish to steal from a museum to exhibit works in a public institute. He says the statues would have been displayed in Jojo Hadikusumo's planned museum and library in Jakarta. That's aiming to preserve the nation's heritage under ideal conditions, something rare in Indonesia's cash-strapped museums.
So the idea is that we are buying what we call Hindu-Buddhist art from Indonesia in the West. And then one day when the institute will be there, maybe this 5, maybe 10 years, then it will be all on display. So when we heard about these sculptures, I showed some pictures of these pieces to the collector, Mr. Joyardokusumo, and he said, well, I think we have to buy it so we can save it for the country.
But whatever the truth of rival assertions about the theft of the statues, in early February, they were overshadowed with news of death threats and an unexplained tragedy.